My first bold prediction was Purdue over Notre Dame because, as I talked about last week, I do think Notre Dame is overrated. However, I watched a good part of that game, and Purdue had a lot of opportunities to win and take advantage and to come away with an upset. But Notre Dame is just that team that they have this like uncanny ability to just play to the level of their competition, right? But then all of a sudden you look up and they're 8-0 or they're 9-0. And then it's like they get this tremendous boost of confidence, and then it's like they blow teams out for the last 2 or 3 games, and then they take their week off for the conference championships and let all those guys beat each other up. They get either the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th seed in the CFP. Usually it's the 2nd or 3rd seed, and then they end up getting dominated by either Bama or Clemson or whoever it will be. Now, because of how things are laying out, could this be a time where Notre Dame could make some noise in the college football playoff? My take is no, I don't think so. Could I see them continuing to scratch and claw away and just gutting out win after win after win, and then all of a sudden we look up and they're 8-0 like they've shown a tendency to do in the past, and then they get that confidence boost and dominate their last few games that are usually against lesser opponents? Yeah, sure, I could definitely see that. Right. So I definitely missed that one. In fact, I was 0 for 2 this week in my bold predictions. I mean, I really thought Purdue coming in confident, playing the way they've been playing, their quarterback, they've got a stud receiver. I just thought they were going to do it, and they did not, as we already discussed in the top 25 score report. And then my other one, man, I had Jackson State over ULM. You know, I thought maybe the HBCU would come in and take care of a FBS team. And to be honest with you, I watched that game as well. That was on my iPad game because they usually are on like ESPN3. So I'll have that on my iPad while I had the Penn State Auburn game on the big screen. But I was pretty locked into it, and their defense looked great. They lost their stud linebacker, who was a transfer from Florida, from the Florida Gators, who's been dominating all season. They lost him in the first quarter to a targeting penalty, and so that really obviously hurt. However, it's not like their defense just struggled the rest of the way, because let me see if I can pull up the final score.
It's like 12-7 or something. It was really
it was a one-possession game in the end, and it was 12-7. That's right, 12-7. So, and here's how it finished. Jackson State was receiving a punt with about a little less than 2 minutes to go. So I thought, here we go. We're going to get to see if Shedeur Sanders can lead his team to victory. They fumbled. They still got the ball back with now only 20 or 30 seconds remaining. And then Shedeur Sanders tried to spike it with only 2 seconds on the clock, which you can't do that. Anything 3 seconds or less, they just end the game. So basically the game ended on a spike that was made with not enough time left. But I'm going to tell you this, B. Holmes, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on this. Shedeur Sanders had a lot of opportunities in that game to will his team to victory. And look, the quarterback is just one player, right?
Right.
He's just one guy. And I don't know if it's the guys that are around him just weren't providing any help, but they really stifled him, that ULM defense. I mean, that Jackson State offense looked a lot like it did in week 1 against FAMU. And so on one hand, I'm thinking last week they figured it out. Shedeur came out and dominated. But then this week it looked like a rehash of week 1. So I'm wondering, as Jackson State gets into conference play, who are they? Are they going to be a team that just solely relies on their defense all season? Or are they going to be able to get that offense back in rhythm, which obviously is going to rise or fall on the arm of Shedeur Sanders? Because don't get me wrong, the kid can make his passes, the kid can throw. But man, it just last night he struggled and their offense really struggled. Obviously, I'm sure Coach Prime is in the film room right now figuring out how they need to make and correct make the corrections they need to make. But, man, I was pulling for them. I was hoping they do it. But here's a little you want a little fun fact on ULM?
Yeah, let's do it.
Their head coach is Terry Bowden, okay, the son of the late, great Bobby Bowden. And their offensive coordinator, do you have any idea who it is?
No, I wouldn't know. I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't know that at all.
I'll give you a hint. It's a former Michigan head football coach.
Rich Rodriguez?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I would have never guessed that.
So I learned that last night.
Interesting.
But, which makes sense because, I mean, not like the team did play with an edge and a toughness. I mean, obviously their offense wasn't just lighting it up either.
Right,
But, yeah,
right.
I saw Rich Rod was their offensive coordinator. So, anyways, that's my bold prediction review. What about you? You actually got a dub on one of them, I think.
I did. I went 1 for 1, man. So my first one, let's just kind of cover it, was OU versus Nebraska, man. That was the big one. And I felt it all week. We were texting about it. I was like, I think Nebraska has it in them. I think Nebraska has it in them. And honestly, if you watch this game, and I got some people were in my mentions, these OU fans that I know, we knew. And here's the thing that irritated me about it, right? They waited till the game was over to say something. It was like, oh, you weren't talking trash when you guys were when Nebraska was shooting themselves in the foot. You were literally waited till the game was over to say, they're like, that's right, we weren't losing. I'm like, where was this energy during the game? Because I know you saw it.
They need to go watch that clip of MJ on The Last Dance when he's got a cigar and his baseball bat and he goes, no, that's a sign of a good man. If you can talk while you're behind or the score's tied, you know what I mean? They need to go watch that little clip.
You need to go watch that clip. And so, I mean, we watched the game. We were texting during that game. Nebraska was just shooting themselves in the foot. And I'll give Scott Frost this. He designed a great game plan, man. He designed a great game plan. He put Nebraska in a position as far as play calling to win. Nebraska could just not stop shooting themselves in the foot. And before the season started, I was really high on Spencer Rattler, man. Really high. I think he was going to be the potential #1 overall pick. Lincoln Riley and his reputation with quarterbacks. I mean, he went from Baker to Kyler to Jalen. I mean, Spencer was supposed to be the next guy. And I don't want to say look pedestrian, but he looks like his ceiling is a little bit lower than those other guys. I mean, now he made some throws that I was like, wow, that's I mean, the arm talent is there. But then it's like the decision making, the moxie, the poise. Something's missing. And so I'm going to say it. I'm still not sold on OU. I think if somebody can get them, it's just going to depend on who. And now we know they're entering into the Big 12 play. I don't know. Big 12, OU could lose a game. It's going to be like 69-63. We don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not super high on them. I feel bad for Nebraska. Man, they're actually a decent team. They just can't get out of their own way. And I don't know if they'll do it soon enough to allow Scott Frost to sit on that seat. I think if he wins this game, the whole Scott Frost narrative changes. Nebraska's now 3-1. You can look at the loss to Illinois like, hey, it was Russ. They came out. But, man, to lose the way they did to Nebraska was just typical Scott Frost era. And so sad to see that, especially as they're entering into Big Ten play. It's about to get rough because the Big Ten looks really strong this year. Now, my second one, man, I was pumped. I called it. We talked about it all week. I had a friend who's a Miami fan. He went to the game yesterday, so we're texting my boy Edwin. I've shouted him out before. The Fighting Mel Tuckers, baby.
Let's go.
The Fighting Mel. And here's where I feel conflicted, Trey. I want to root for Sparta so bad. Like, I want to root for them so bad. Like, I find myself like, oh, my God, let's go. And I'm like, I hate. Like, hear me, listeners. I hate Michigan State. Hate them. Don't like them at all. But Mel Tucker, man, I love the guy. And you know what? He said something. I listened to the post-game presser, and he says this. He says, hey, man, they're like asking about the humidity and playing in Florida. And he goes, we wanted to take them to the deep end where we knew they couldn't survive. We knew we were prepared for it. And I texted you this during the game. I looked at his play sheet his card, and on the back it says, it takes what it takes. And I'm telling you, they play with that type of emphasis. We're going to get gritty. We're going to get dirty. We're going to play aggressive. We're going to play strong. And I'm telling from the moment the game started, I watched like the first series, and I go, Michigan State's going to win this game. You can see the fire. You can see the hunger. You can see the grit. That team is Mel Tucker's team. And I just love it, man.
Well, on Mel Tucker, that guy to me reminds me of all there used to be like this viral bit like maybe a decade and a half ago about Chuck Norris, right? There are all these Chuck Norris jokes.
Yeah, the Chuck Norris jokes.
And like, Chuck Norris doesn't squeeze oranges. He simply looks at the orange until it,
it squeezes
produces the juice
something.
for him. So it's like, I'm thinking it's the same thing with Mel Tucker. It's like little boys wear Superman pajamas when they go to sleep at night. Superman wears Mel Tucker pajamas when he goes to sleep at night. Like he's that kind of just like aura and presence. Because I could care less about Michigan State. I have no dog in the fight with them at all, but I pull for him. I cheer for him because of him. And so, and you see it, man. We've been saying it since we started this podcast. That team takes on the identity of their head coach. And boy, Michigan State is a perfect example of a team that is carrying on the toughness, tenacity, and relentlessness that their head coach possesses.